Welcome to this practice. I'll be teaching this for you as a demonstration of principles we use in our yoga therapy training school. One of those principles is the 6 stations of the mind, these 6 places where the mind dashes about instead of staying grounded, present, or stable. It goes to past and future, self and other, aversion and desire, also called dislikes and likes, wanting and not wanting mind, craving and resistance. So we'll talk about that. We'll also discuss the polyvagal system, the dorsal vagal, sympathetic, and ventral vagal nervous systems, because we also rely on that in our yoga therapy training school. I will also give you a breakdown of the invocation for asatoma, satgamaya, tamasoma, jyotirgamaya, mrityoma, amritam gamaya. And all that's going to get woven together in the class. We do start with a discussion about yoga therapy and about healing and about why our subconscious river of experiences is capable of dysregulating us in daily life today, even though our internal sense is like, well, that should not be bothering me. Why is it coming up today? Why does it invisibly operate the marionette strings of our minds and our reactions? We'll also discuss that. Ultimately, you'll have a practice to bring you into balance and to bring you to the sattvic state that is yoga. Okay, let's go to class. Okay, so welcome for practice this morning. I'd like to set this practice into 3 sections. We'll be exploring the 6 stations of the mind and polyvagal theory together. To prepare for that, let's take a comfortable, quiet seat, please. You can rest your hands in your lap. You're welcome to close your eyes. We always use centering to prepare for our practice. It's also ideal when preparing for integrating various sources of knowledge into an understandable and embodied whole. So rest your hands in your lap, lengthen up through your spine. Drop down into your hips and your pelvis. And then welcome your breath to guide you back home to the present. Your breath is like your personal GPS system. Allow the inhale to drop down into the pelvic basin. Welcome your mind to go there with it. And welcome the exhale, which is also in the low pelvis. And gradually increase the tone of the exhale without any additional coercion or force at the end of the exhale. And see if a gentle inhale, exhale pattern can help you to feel more grounded, more present, more stable. That's why I say it's your personal GPS system to feel more grounded, more present, more stable. Do about 5 more breath cycles. See if you can keep your mind concentrating on the inhale sensation the gentle pause, the exhale sensation, and the gentle pause. Can you concentrate for 4 more breaths consecutively without your mind departing from the invitation? Any sense of rushing and no sense of a false kind of slowness. So just breathing in, breathing out. And then notice if you feel any bit more grounded, like even a glimpse of feeling more grounded, even like a little peephole of feeling more present. You have any better sense of stability in the present moment. And then you can raise your hands to your heart. So in our school and in our practice, we do start with an invocation. And this morning I'd like to use Asatoma Satgamaya. The translation being Asatoma Satgamaya. Sat means truth. Asat is the absence of truth. So even though it says the absence of truth and then it says truth, we translate this first line as, please lead me from the real, we translate this to be, please lead me from the unreal to the real. Okay, let me say that again. So asatoma satgamaya, sat means truth, and asat means the absence of truth. So the translation goes in that order. Please lead me from the unreal to the real, from the untrue to the true. Sometimes we say, may I discern between that which is true and that which is less true or untrue. And this is a spiritual invocation. So can I know the deepest truth? Can I not be dissuaded from that by a false truth? So can I not be like absorbed in the dazzling objects and think of those as true? In the third line of this chant, we realize that those dazzling objects are also finite and they can't be, therefore, that which is true. So the first line, asatoma satgamaya, please lead me from the unreal to the real. May I know the truth from the untruth. The second line, tamasoma jyotir gamaya. Jyoti means light or luminous, and tamas in this line means darkness. And I like to translate that as the darkness of forgetting our indwelling nature, of not knowing our inner nature. So may we be led from darkness to light, from forgetting to the luminosity of remembering. And when we're shining that light and it's coming through us and we can sense it, looking at what is true or untrue becomes easier. The last line, we say Mrit Yoma Amritam Gamaya. Amrit is the absence of the finite or the infinite. And Mrit is finite, that which is ephemeral. It's transient. It's coming and going. So the Amrit is that which is ongoing, ever abiding, infinite. So if you consider that which is coming and going, those finite things, including state changes, physiological state changes, and also your appetite, a meal and then hunger, or sleep and then waking, all those things are ever changing, so are craving and aversion. Those are finite. We crave something, we get it, the dopamine is over. Right? We know that in our society there's a perpetual search for something more right now. That does come through scrolling today, but it's not new in humanity. It may be quickening because of the means that we have to do it, but it's not new to humanity. So the finite, the ever-changing, the transient, cannot help us to know that which is true, the sat. It can't help us to know that, but it can give us a false sense of what is true, a fleeting sense of what is true. That would be called asat, not actually the deepest truth. Eventually, this pursuit for that thing that we're reaching for, whether that's scrolling or actually reaching out for acquiring something to make us feel a bit better or more whole, eventually that actually leads to darkness, to tamas, because it causes a kind of concealing. It's another translation of the word tamas. We are getting concealed from the truth. It's concealing because we become absorbed in kind of like tunnel vision or micro vision for, the phone kind of thing. And so it's concealing that utmost truth from us. The behavior is. The truth hasn't left. The truth of who you most deeply are hasn't evaporated, has not vanished, it's not been diminished or broken, it's gone nowhere. It's still there waiting for us to come back to it. So we say, by this practice, may we be led from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, and from the finite to the infinite. May we know the deepest truth. May we understand that light which is shining through us. May we have a sense of that ever-abiding love that we are, that everyone and everything is. From that place, you will see clearly the indwelling suchness of others, and there'll be no sense of exclusion. The process of exclusion will evaporate from you. You will see everyone as your own, and in them, you will also see yourself. You'll get to see human nature in them, and you'll also see their divine nature, and you'll see that as well in yourself. So we say, asatoma satgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityoma amritam gamaya. And bring your hands together at your heart, please. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Harihi Om. You may bow your head to your heart. Release your hands. Please open your eyes. So when we say then, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, three forms of peace. May there be inner peace. May there be peace amongst us. May there be peace in all the realms. Harihi Om Harihi. So Hari, Harihi. So you're taking the ha in the abdomen, Harihi, and you bring it up through the heart to the throat. Like you're pulling up the toxins or the impurities. Hari Om actually means may the impurities be released. May we overcome these impurities or these toxins or these misunderstandings. May we overcome this. Harihi Om. And there's a space between Hari and Om because you're kind of, spitting it out, the toxins. Harihi Om. You don't want to spit it on the Om. So you're going to share the precious Om after you have offered it out, the toxins. Then we say, Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Shri is like giving reverence to or beauty, the feeling of that beautiful Shri goddess or Shri teacher, the beautiful teachings as well. Shri Guru. Guru is the teacher. And that teacher can be a formal teacher. It can be your inner teacher. It can be the experiences of life that require you to go from gu to ru, guru. So guru is darkness, that which brings darkness and which brings light. So gu, the dark, ru, the light, like Rudra. Guru is the energy in you and in a teacher and in these sometimes painful life experiences that requires you to go from darkness to light. This is a very important principle in healing and recovery. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Namaha means it's all bigger than we are. It's beyond us. It's so enormous. It's so big. And so we're basically saying, may that beauty and that inner teacher, may my difficulties and the pain that I've been in also be a force for transformation. May I respect the teacher and the teachings. Even sometimes I feel they're being maybe strong teachings. And I feel, oh no, I want my petty grievances. No, rather can I be humble to the teacher. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Because it's all bigger than I can imagine. It's all bigger than I am. I don't know where I'm going to go here. I can't plan it myself. I can't look through this little peephole of my own camera and think I know where I'm going. And then we say it again. Harihi Om. Harihi Om. Harihi Om. Like that. So I hope that gives you a well-rounded sense of why we're chanting in this way to begin our yoga practice. I'm going to change my sound settings because there's a motorcycle in the neighborhood. I like to think, well, that's the divine riding a motorcycle. The divine in the form of a person riding a motorcycle. Just like the divine comes in the form of the bumblebee that you don't want to be stung by also. It's many manifestations of the divine. Okay, so with the 6 stations of the mind, if you think of yourself as sitting in the center of a teeter-totter, and this one has 3 limbs like this, and they balance each other. So in the center of this teeter-totter, when you're looking forward, back, left, right, and then on the diagonal. So you've got them balanced like 6 slices of pie, for example. You have past and future, self and other, likes and dislikes. Those are the ways in which the mind finds its exit strategy from the GPS. Rather than grounded, present, and stable, it's going hither and thither, here and there. And sometimes it goes there slowly, so slowly you don't realize you're daydreaming. Or so slowly you don't realize that you're having a memory of the past. So slowly you don't realize that you're planning a delicious meal after yoga class. Or so slowly you don't realize, oh God, my sleep last night was so terrible. You're picking up on fragments of the past. Other times it's bouncing pretty quickly, and that can be obvious to us. But meditation is the practice of coming back to the center of that teeter-totter, to be grounded, present, and stable. Now, in terms of fragments of the past and fragments of any of this, these fragments in interpersonal neurobiology are called the implicit river of past impressions. That's my interpretation of this. So an implicit memory storehouse. Implicit means that it's in this river underneath your life, and it's always there, available to push up into the now, and that is called the ever-present now. Right? So things are coming up in the now. It's ever present. This river is underneath the consciousness of our life. It's like a subconscious river, and memories and sense impressions from the past can push up at any time. They're usually given a portal. Sometimes those portals are pleasant, and sometimes they're unpleasant, punya and apunya. So a pleasant portal is like, oh, you smell pizza, memory of household, memory of Saturday night, watching a certain TV show, making the pizza sauce, making the dough. So I came from a household where that was our Saturday night activity. Memory of pepperoni, it comes very strongly, and very positive association with pepperoni, just to be transparent. So it can also be a painful memory, apunya. So memory of a painful experience like chaos or anger or neglect or abuse or loud sounds and people fighting, and you feeling helpless to do anything about that. Also part of my memory field. So in this case, the apunya or the punya, they're in that undercurrent of our life, and they can push up into the now. We call that the ever-present now, because it's ever available for us to be influenced by. In healing, as we say in yoga therapy, healing is understanding that undercurrent and then actually accessing some of that for the purpose of integrating it so that it becomes, in a way, it becomes resolved as something that has constant friction on you. That which is unresolved will have an ongoing friction in your system. It will be drawing energy away from your primary purpose. And because of that friction, we don't realize that it's there. We have these tensions in the body. We feel them as sensations, painful sensations, tension, or aches and pains in the body. But we may not associate that with the friction of the undercurrent of our life, our history, our conditioning. Sometimes people talk about it as family of origin. I like to refer to it as your original care providing environment, and where you got the kind of the matrix laid down a bit as to who you're supposed to be or how you acquire safety and connection, which are so important to you, to everybody. They're important to us as a primal being. So in yoga therapy, we're looking to understand what is in that undercurrent, because it's operating little currents in our daily life, and sometimes it operates a tsunami in our daily life, or it is the current that is pushing us into addiction or compulsivity or anxiety or depression. It's giving us flickers of people's facial expressions that are quickly interpreted by the limbic brain, not by the neocortex, and the interpretation rushes biochemistry into the forms of fight or flight, or freeze, submit. So fight and flight then become your sympathetic nervous system, like that. And freeze, submit becomes the dorsal vagal nervous system, falling down and in, becoming bereft or despondent or deflated. You can think of sympathetic as inflated and dorsal vagal as deflated. And ventral vagal, which is our optimal hum for the nervous system, think of ventral vagal as just properly inflated, enough vitality, enough sense of self. In that ventral vagal state, at the center of the teeter-totter, these 6 stations are balanced. We have a healthy sense of self. We have healthy relationships. We have a healthy relationship to our aversions, potentially noting those as our clear boundaries about things. For example, an aversion to loud sound, which my concussion definitely had. So how I set up my life to not overdo the exposure to loud sounds, for example. In the healthy sense, we may also know what our healthy desires are. Rather than it being addictive or compulsive, we have a healthy sense of the priorities we can set for the day. So those balance. And then we also have a healthy relationship to past, recognizing that from which we have learned, that from which we are motivated to grow, and also our ability to keep learning from our past. And we have a healthy relationship to future. Can we wisely chaperone ourselves to move to a future that expresses our values and our dharma and lets us sit in that ventral vagal perspective on life, which is really an inherently compassionate, forgiving, and generous perspective. So ventral vagal is when you're in your best yogi self. You're feeling that it's coming through you biochemically, and you like walking down the street realizing, oh, I sense everyone and everything and all that has been and all that will be. And it's all sort of shimmering and flowing through you, but you're not conjuring it. You're not orchestrating it. You're not choreographing anything. You're in the flow, as we say. So a yoga practice is to help bring us to that balanced state where the teeter-totter of the 6 stations of the mind is not problematic. It's not apunya. It's not causing dukkha or suffering. It's also not pursuing punya, the pleasant. It's not grasping for sukha, the easeful, but it comes into a place of balance. So what we'll do are 3 short practices, each about 20 minutes, looking at dorsal vagal reflexes, which is when we pull down and in again, and we can be very collapsed, and that might be a very painful past or a frightening future. We don't want to go to tomorrow or to work. We don't feel comfortable there. We end up succumbing to this collapsed state. We get frozen or immobilized. Painful past can be many things, but often in that reaction to painful past, shrinking was a better option than inflating. So deflating might have been better, pruning back, getting quieter, taking up less space might have been the better option for somebody. In dorsal vagal collapse, we also are not connected to the neocortex. We don't have a self, we don't have an other. Self and other are not really registering. Other might be frightening, other might be overwhelming, and there isn't really a strong sense of self in terms of an integrated self, but there might be a shame-filled self there. In terms of likes and dislikes, those are pretty well toned down to just a few options of what's going to keep the system sedated. So dorsal vagal nerve fibers are here in the lower part of the spine. This is according to Deb Dana's teachings on polyvagal theory and her work in psychotherapy, which is she's worth looking into. Her books and her teachings are really helpful. So connecting to this region of the body, we'll do a practice for dorsal vagal. So I'm going to ask you to stay seated as you are and just pretend that you understand. Maybe you very intimately understand this, but otherwise you're going to pretend that you understand what it's like to be in collapse. So place your hands out over your knees. Remember the picture in like on the Mexican postcard, it's got the sombrero. All you see is a sombrero because the person sitting is asleep. So come down to that kind of position. And try to sense for yourself how this could be a safe position for somebody to adopt. What might feel comforting to someone to be here? We may have our bias about not being in a dorsal vagal slump. But right now, we're just going to feel into what might this be like in terms of it becomes a resource for people to go to, a place that they may even default into. Let the posture come a little more forward until you are placing your hands at the small of your back, and you can bow forward until your head touches something, a blanket, a block, or the floor. As you come down, you might notice that this is one of the most stable of the options, right? Stable in this case means tamas, which also translates as inert or inertia. So there's a kind of inertia in this position, a tamasic expression. And I will ask you now to start breathing a little more deeply down into the lower belly. Encourage the breath to come into the back hemisphere of your waist, the sides of the torso. And then as you next exhale, start rooting the tailbone down, make it a little bit heavier. And then inhale, roll yourself up just to sitting. No need to greet the day or become, like happy-go-lucky. So just coming up to sitting. Place your hands out over your knees. We always move from dorsal vagal slowly, not an abrupt change. So we're going to make tiny circles right now. Circle the torso. You'll feel yourself weighting one sitting bone more than the other as you make a circle. And we'll make the circle rhythmically consistent. It's another very important thing about how our interpersonal neurobiological system gets developed, the rhythm in our environment. So when you make your circles, make them rhythmic for right now. So there's a consistency that you're providing to yourself. Let's change directions on the circle. Now, just having circles in the torso is already a big deal. Let's bring that around to center. But for someone who got capsized or collapsed, that is already a lot of movement to ask of them. Okay. So now we're going to combine a couple things. Place your hands out over your knees. I would recommend you move your blanket away and then curl down into cat pose for the spine. So take the tailbone forward, round your lower back, and breathe in. Exhale. And then inhale, press against your knees, roll your torso forward, and then up. And then exhale, curl back and down. So inhale, come forward, press your hands against your knees, and rise up slow. And exhale, make a full circle, really, of the spine. So you're going to go back and down. And then inhale, you might think of leading with your nose. You come forward, then your heart, then the belly button, then open, including your throat. And then exhale, curl down. Now come up to the center and let's place the left hand over the right hand. So we had some abdominal circles a moment back. So think of how you were moving around the torso there. Let's exhale and come into cat pose. So aim your tailbone towards your right knee. And then inhale, glide forward through your nose, your heart, the belly button, look up. And exhale, round your spine as if you could back up, but the hands are firm on your knees, so you can't go back that far. Inhale, forward and up. And exhale, rounding the spine, gaze inward, go inward. One more time, inhale, forward and up. And exhale, curl down and in. Two hands on the knees, round your back. Inhale up to center. Now put the right hand on the left, or sometimes I like to put the right hand underneath and then the left hand holds the right. It can be more firm that way. And round the spine on the exhale. Inhale forward and up. Exhale, rounding down, broaden the back of your waist. Inhale, lead with your chin, and then your throat, and then your heart, and the belly button. And exhale, curl down. And then inhale back to center. And let's pause for a moment and see if it's possible that you feel a little more connected to the inner belly and the base of your pelvis, but also a little more connected to life around you. Okay, let's take a seat on a blanket. And in this seat, put the soles of the feet together. This Baddha Konasana, like this. Right, so in Baddha Konasana, you can hold on to the toes if you like, or you can hold your ankles. Press the knees out to the sides of the room. Hold firmly on whatever you're holding on to and bring the chin down. Broaden the back of the body while you're sitting upright. Breathe in. And then exhale and come forward. And keeping the chin down towards the throat for now. Inhale, raise up to your seat until your arms are straight. And then exhale, come forward. So in this case, we're keeping the gaze down. And one of the characteristics of a dorsal vagal collapse is gaze aversion. But right now we're keeping the gaze purposely down. So it gives permission for that and also gives direction for the eyes. We exhale to come forward and down. Of course, that increases the stretch with the inner thighs. Inhale, rising up to your seat is going to increase the sense of verticality of the spine. And exhale one more time to come forward. Now this time as you inhale, last time to come up and simply upright. Now we're going to add this. Inhale, lift your heart, lift your gaze, look up. Exhale, turn right and look down. Inhale, gaze right and up. So immobilizing the body is also, exhale, go left and down, means that we aren't moving the head about. And since, let's continue here, inhale to go up. Since we aren't lizards, we don't have eyes on the sides of our head. Exhale down to the right. So when we go into a collapse and we have that tunnel vision, we have immobilized not just the body, but also our ability to sense the world around us and to see around us. So this is a vagal tone activity using your neck, your throat, and your eyes. You inhale up and exhale to the side and down. Let's do it one more time. Inhale up and exhale side and down. And then return to center and see if you can sit comfortably in Baddha Konasana, hands out over the knees. So notice that it's already a larger space that you're encompassing just by putting the feet into Baddha Konasana. Okay, and then let's bring the feet and knees up and transition up to standing. You can put your blanket aside. Okay, so let's picture that you have been in the dorsal vagal place, right? And so this is a huge thing. You've stood up. It's a big thing. I have a fingerprint that's obscuring my view of you. Okay. So coming up to stand, we're actually not going to stay upright that long. You're going to give someone permission to go from sitting, and perhaps they were doing the sequence we just did in a chair. So now standing from the chair is less of a leap evolutionarily, but standing up from the floor is pretty big, like when we were children, you know, lying down on our backs, lying on the stomach, learning to crawl, eventually standing up, and eventually standing up on our own. So come down to Prasarita Padottanasana. Release the weight of your head. Energize the legs. Now, in this downward forward bending, we are intentionally going inward and downward. So it cultivates tamas, but it keeps the person who's been in dorsal vagal a little closer to their preferred reflex. We're going to use this model of gently awakening from dorsal vagal towards ventral vagal. So in the same way that we're just moving the head about in the pose we were doing seated, let's just allow the head to make some gentle circles. Like looking over to your right, over to your left, giving the head a circle in the same way we had the belly making circles earlier. Release unnecessary tension or holding. You might even stretch the tongue out or open the jaw. And then rise up to your fingertips. And as you come up to your fingertips, look down at the space between your hands and consider that to be the center spot. Now, some of you will be using blocks because the floor will seem too far away for you, and that is totally fine. Put your hands on blocks, but put a block between the two hands as well. Let's place the left hand in the center of the two hands, and then inhale. And as you open to your right, I'm going to ask you to trace your right thumb with your eyes. And then exhale, come back down, following your thumb with your eyes. And we're just going to do that about 4 times. So if you'll specifically follow your thumb, that means that the space beyond your thumb is a little bit blurry right now. Keep the legs stable and the body strong. Move with the rhythm of your breathing. And then one more time, inhale, open to your right. And exhale to come down. Let's change sides. Place the right hand down. Inhale, follow your left thumb. You need to follow the thumb at the pace that your body and mind and breath can move together, also at a pace that is comfortable for the eyes. The background's going to be blurry. Anything beyond your thumb will be a little bit blurry. That's appropriate. We'll do this 3 times more. It's not necessary to reach to the fullest extent possible or to have the greatest flexibility ever. We happen to be using this position because we're in a yoga practice and it's really nice to bring some energy and aliveness to the body. But this activity we're doing right here, you can bring that to a close. You could have done that sitting in a chair with the thumb out to the side in the room that you're sitting in. Let's take a deep breath in through the nose, down to the lower belly. Please energize your legs. Raise your hands up to your hips and inhale, rise up to standing. And then we're going to go heel toe, center. Okay. So if you were then standing up, this would be quite a change from that dorsal vagal collapse. If you've been doing this practice seated in a chair with somebody and they just did this sitting in a chair, totally fine. They may not be ready to be more dynamic than that. But now you can have them also come back to center, and let's gaze at the horizon. And when you're gazing out at the horizon, without having to move the eyes, begin sensing the space around you. That's a really important brain activation that happens there. The gaze is forward at nothing, it's relatively still, but start sensing the surround. So you're awakening the part of your brain that has a social engagement network, a social engagement context. Now we'll complete this short practice for the dorsal vagal. Let's inhale, raise both arms up overhead and sense that surround space. Hold your right wrist with your left hand and exhale, side bend to your left. Notice in side bending that you're going to be breathing down into the right low belly and even the lower back. Some of those nerve fibers again in the lower gut region of the body. So keep both legs strong and stable. And then with your inhalation, rise up to center. Hold your left wrist with your right hand, reach up. Next inhale, come over to your right. Keep both legs grounded and centered. Notice the opening you have in the left low belly. Sometimes what happens with dorsal vagal is a shutdown for the gut as well. It is called the gut-brain axis for a reason. So working with the colon does become important. So inhale up to center. Let's clasp the hands, press them up overhead. And exhale to the right. Inhale center. Exhale left. Inhale at your own pace. Exhale at your own pace. So having the arms overhead here and the fingers interlaced is also awakening the upper back, and that is the region of your sympathetic nervous system fibers. So it would be a good way to wake up your fight or flight if you had to. We could call that a sense of appropriate motivation, right? A sense of energy or vitality, some determination gets woken up. We don't want to wake that up into fight like aggressiveness or flight like dashing away or driving off into some mysterious sunset. And let's inhale, rise up to the tiptoes. And then exhale, take the arms out, sense the surround, and drop your heels down. Relax your arms and close your eyes. And imagine yourself as interconnected to life itself. You could even let some inspiring people come to mind, like Viktor Frankl, or Aung San Suu Kyi, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Inspiring people who would root for you, not to be just beholden to a painful past. Okay, so if that's for your dorsal vagal nervous system, now such a person could then go for a walk outdoors, experience nature, keep it simple, enjoy some food, digest some food, rather than having the gut become frozen also in the form of things like constipation, for example. So also a way of overcoming the tamas guna. Now let's imagine that we're working with a situation where the sympathetic nervous system takes over. So a person's reaction in the nervous system is fight or flight. So it's a sympathetic arousal. In yoga, we call that rajas or rajasic. We become overly energized, disorganized energy that we don't necessarily have control over because it's now driving us. We feel like we're in charge, we're getting things done, we're pursuing it, we're, living the dream or climbing the ladder of some kind. But actually, there are drives, hidden drives and impulses that are driving us. And some of those come from that undercurrent of the implicit memories, the implicit messages. So when that's taken over and someone's having symptoms of anxiety or heartburn or acid reflux or headaches, migraines, irritation, frustration, rage, when those things are occurring, we know the sympathetic nervous system is burning itself. And so we're going to start with a practice. Actually, we're going to start kneeling with a practice that we can do. You could also do it sitting in a chair, but I like to do it kneeling sometimes. This is called Simha Pranayama, or lion's breath. We'll start here. First, I'm going to ask you to just sit in Vajrasana. This is called Vajrasana. It means thunderbolt pose or powerful pose, actually. It's a pose of adamantine strength, the strength of a diamond. So sitting in Vajrasana. And close your eyes. Maybe you have to think a long way back in your life to the last time you were ever angry about something, because you're a peaceful monk. You don't remember in the recent times. But so if that's necessary, think a ways back to the last time you were angry, or the last time you felt insulted or frustrated. Maybe it was yesterday or this morning. And you may feel a certain activation that comes up in the body. If you think back at a time where you felt you experienced wrongdoing towards you, what reflex is there? And it could be complex. You could have a reflex to collapse and hide. It would be like a shame reflex. You could also have a reflex of aggressiveness or antagonism. You can notice that your body will have certain activations, right? And start breathing a little more deeply and smoothly. Rhythmically include the lower belly, the mid-torso, and the heart. It can help to feel the body to make that practice more solid. So you could put one hand on the low belly, one hand on the side waist. And you start the breath with the low belly hand. You move to the side waist hand and then move up to the heart. And then we start the exhale down at the low belly again. So it's breathing in, low abdomen, mid-torso, and heart. And breathing out, lower belly, mid-torso. We don't need to shrink the heart in the exhale. You're mapping the breath with your hands, giving yourself a sense of the tactile movement of the breath and the rhythm. Do 2 more cycles. When the breath is expanding laterally, also think of that as posteriorly. So the back of the body, not just the sides of the body. 1 more time. Rest your hands in your lap. So that's actually called Durga Pranayama, 3-part breathing. Now make your paws into little fists like this. And you're going to have paws and claws for Simha breathing, lion's breathing. Put your paws on your knees. And we're going to take a deep breath in through the nose. On the exhale, we're going to use the roar of the lion. So when we do this one, you spread the claws out, you come forward, you stick the tongue out, you make a sigh or a roar or a sound. The eyes will roll up. You can look up actually behind your eyebrows. And generally speaking, you're just trying to look scary, but you're really releasing the energy of frustration, irritation, that which burns you on the inside. You're roaring like a lion to let that out. It's very similar to Harihi Om. We're not just letting it out to let it out and then toxify somebody else. In fact, this is not going towards a person. It's just going out to the elements of nature. You can let it be taken by the wind, by the fire, by the water, by the air, by the trees, the earth. They're going to metabolize that far better than we can often. Okay, 2 pause. Breathe in. Exhale. Breathe in. Exhale. Of course, in your own timing. And the inhale is that first, middle, and upper third of the breath. One more time. Sitting in Vajrasana again. So let's deeply relax for a moment. Deeply relax and let that practice give its own echo in your body. Now we're going to do an active practice. So sometimes when you're caught up in rajasic energy, it's helpful to have a rajasic kind of practice. But we're going to use rajas to move to sattva. So we might take this fiery energy and think of it as we're going to be a little bit like an orchestra conductor for music. We want to musically bring that from fiery back to sattva, the lucid, clear, and balanced. So one way to think about this is when you feel fired up, when you feel like fight or flight, usually with the fight, it's something in front of you. You're going to be, like attacking it, right? You're going to attack those emails. You're going to get this stuff done. You're going to climb the next rung on the ladder. You're going to whatever, improve your resume, but you're going to do it in this dogged, hyper motivated form rather than a natural form of equanimity to do those things with the same amount of clarity and determination that would happen from sattva rather than distorted versions of that from rajas. And often with flight, we are running away from something, but we're also running in this direction. We're not running backwards. We're running. We're forward facing when we're doing that. So we're going to be doing some practices that instead of being so much forward facing all the time, you're going to be stepping back in these poses. So I'd like you to get 2 blocks to put at the front of your yoga mat and step into the pose called Uttanasana, like this. Remind yourself that when we're using these practices, it's to help reorganize energy in the body. So it's not that we're reinforcing a particular tamas, rajas, guna activation. So if we were to do this quickly, like let's say hot vinyasa yoga practice, that rajas would get worked out there, but you would also be increasing rajas at the same time. Being in a hot environment, having spicy food, moving quickly, having a high tempo leads to more rajas, leads to greater tempers. So with an ujjayi inhale now, inhale and glide your spine forward, lift from the base of your skull and the crown of your skull. And then exhale and bow towards the legs and squeeze the breath out. Press firmly with your hands against the block. So you're going to activate the lower belly at the end of the exhale. And inhale, glide forward again. Think of it as one vertebrae at a time. And exhale to bow towards the legs. Press firmly into both hands to strengthen the inner abdominal region for your exhale. Once more, inhale, glide your heart forward. And now bend your knees and take your left toes straight back. So step backwards into the base of the lunge pose. And in this base, I'm going to ask you to rest your palms lightly on your blocks. Let the torso bow over your right thigh for the time being. Energize the left leg. Breathe in. Okay, exhale, touch your left knee down. Inhale, straighten and strengthen your left leg. Reach back into your heel. Exhale, lower the left knee down. It can just lightly touch the floor. You're opening the hip flexors and the psoas. Both are involved in fighting and fleeing. Inhale, straighten the left leg. Reach back from your hips for your left leg into your heel. Exhale, touch your left knee down. Again, it's quite light to keep the muscle tone in your left leg. And one more time, inhale, reach back. And then exhale, straighten both legs. Press from your right hip down into your right heel. Let the hands be firm on the blocks and pivot the left heel to touch the floor. With the inhale, lengthen your spine. On the exhale, whatever amount of movement is appropriate for you, you can bow over the right leg. When you inhale, then again, lengthen the spine. Keep the legs straight and strong and steady. And then exhale to bow over your right leg. One more. As you bow over your leg, keep the right thigh muscles strong so the base of your pose is energized for stability. Now let's bend the right knee, keep the left heel grounded where it is. Take several breath cycles here. So the back heel, I want you to reach into your left heel and your toes like a taproot back there. Bending the right knee is a challenge for the back leg. So we're posing the question, can you keep the back leg rooted? And you keep reaching back into that taproot. You may also walk the blocks forward. This becomes like a pose. We sometimes call it humble warrior pose. Breathe deeply and rhythmically into the lower pelvis and the belly. And then walk the blocks back so that they can bookend your right foot. And you're going to straighten the right leg slowly. And let's pick up the right foot and step backwards into downward dog pose. Stepping backwards. Embody your hips, your legs, the heels and toes. Breathe into the lower abdomen. And exhale, come forward to plank pose. In plank pose, we're going to use the push reflex. So press downwards from your heart into your hand. Broaden the back of your waist, lift the base of the skull. Lengthen from your tailbone and your sacrum towards your heels. Breathe smoothly and rhythmically. So this is a way of concentrating, or we could say making the body more cohesive. And in sympathetic arousal or rajas, the body becomes less cohesive. So cohesion is here from the strength. Let's inhale, raise the hips high, reach back to downward dog pose. Exhale, left foot forward. On the inhale, we're going to keep gazing down because we're working with this particular practice this morning. So on the inhale, broaden the back of your waist. Be connected to the parachute back there. As you exhale, touch your right knee lightly down. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, touch lightly back down. Stretching your right hip flexors, your right psoas a little bit. Follow your inhale. And follow the pace of your exhale. Now one more time, inhale, strengthen and straighten your right leg. And then exhale, press from your left hip down into the floor. Press with the strength of your left leg, even into your heel and your toes. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Pivot your right heel to the floor. And exhale to bow over your left leg. Inhale, straighten, lengthen. And exhale to bow slowly, determined to have a complete exhale, not a rushed exhale. Once more. Now let's bend the left knee. It'll pose a challenge to the right leg to stay grounded. So keep reaching into the fullness of your right footprint. That should feel as grounded as it was a moment back. You can walk the blocks forward if you like and come into humble warrior pose. Breathe smoothly and rhythmically so the back of the body is expanding on the inhalation and the deep inner belly is toning on the exhalation. And walk the blocks back. So they're going to bookend your left foot. Press firmly into both hands and arms. Pick up the inner belly. Pick up the left foot. Step back to downward dog pose. And then inhale, come forward to plank pose. Press firmly from your heart down through your arms. Isometrically squeeze the feet towards each other, so the inner thighs will be stronger. Lengthen your tailbone towards your heels. So we're not just in plank pose praying for arm strength, you're using the whole body. Actively press the floor away from you without over rounding your back. So lift the base of the skull, keep the lower belly toned. The lower back is broad, but the upper back is not like a turtle here. And then inhale, reach high into downward dog pose. Touch the knees down. Put the big toes together, separate the knees apart, and drop back to child's pose. You can put your hands on the floor. You're welcome to make a little pillow of your forearms for your head, or put your head directly on the floor. And when you come down to child's pose, notice that it has a kind of refuge. Rather than it being about this unfortunate dorsal vagal collapse, you can think of child's pose as taking refuge. Taking refuge in yourself, not being compelled by all the messages around you in daily life, which happen to be lining up with the messages of your implicit river. That undercurrent of stuff I talked about at the beginning of class. And so from that place of going inward in child's pose, now come up to kneeling, and then please lie on your back with 2 blocks close enough to be easily reached. Place your feet flat on the floor and somewhere near to your hips, so not too far away. They don't have to be right up against your sitting bones. There's a lot of yoga myths out there about these poses. You know, like you should be able to reach your heels is one of the myths. It depends on the length of your arms and the length of your torso and the flexibility of your quads and so on. So just bring your heels close enough that when you pick up your hips, your shins are going to be more or less vertical, not out here where they won't be so vertical. Okay, we're going to take both blocks on the flat setting. We're going to make a little triangle like this. So pick up your hips and put the triangle so the bottom point of the triangle points towards the tailbone. And so you can check it there where your shins are vertical. You know where you are. Your hips should be level. And you're also able to pick up the knees and the blocks won't slide out. Right, so you've got this. All right, great. So let's keep the upper back and shoulders and arms relaxed. And as you inhale, raise your knees up to vertical. Exhale, toe touch down. Keeping the body stable. Inhale, raise the knees up. Exhale, toe touch down. Inhale up. Exhale, knees to chest. Inhale, knees up. Exhale, toe touch down. Inhale, knees up. Keep the body stable. So we're looking for that cohesion. Exhale, knees to the chest. Inhale, float the knees up. Exhale, toe touch down. So we want to make use of the strength of rajas, the strength of a person whose determination might become like overly determined. Exhale, knees to chest. This is also addressing the dorsal vagal system. So this pose, this particular practice, lying on the back, is much more open and vulnerable. So a person in a dorsal vagal mode may not be ready for this, but it could be something they move towards. And a person whose sympathetic nervous system is highly activated, to be able to coordinate this with their breathing, slows down the nervous system, slows down the mind. It's also accessing what yoga calls apanavayu. It's returning samanavayu to its purpose in the stomach. When you exhale, releasing thoughts, for example. When you inhale, bringing in peace and tranquility. We're going to exhale, touch the feet down. And now you've already checked that your shins can be vertical. Inhale, raise your hips up to bridge pose. Tuck the shoulders under. We're going to put the 2 blocks aside. You could choose to clasp the hands. You could choose to hold a yoga strap. You could hold the sides of your mat. You could hold your feet. Though most people can't reach their feet based on the length of the arms and the flexibility of the body, so I don't say that one very often. Use the strength of the arms, the shoulders, the heart. So this is a purposeful activation of the back hemisphere of the body. We want optimism and commitment. And our commitment would be towards the sattva guna. The commitment is to evolving into the best version of ourselves rather than succumbing to those invisible patterns pulling us to and fro without our consent. As you next exhale, go ahead and lower your hips down onto your hands or onto your forearms. Turn your palms flat to the floor. Squeeze the shoulders underneath. Raise the heart up. Let's straighten one leg at a time. And then inhale and come into fish pose, Matsyendrasana. Lift your heart, open the throat. If you have the neck flexibility for it, your head comes to the floor behind you. If you don't have that flexibility, please use a blanket. But most importantly, lift the heart, roll the shoulders back, open your collarbones and your throat. And then exhale, slide on the back of your head. Release your hands and arms. Okay, let's put the palms going face up. We're coming to Shavasana. So we'll do Shavasana as a part of the practice to now integrate the ventral vagal nervous system. So the whole of the nervous system coming into its best evolutionary option, which is ventral vagal parasympathetic nervous system. And this is because we are going to feel more connected and interconnected. So palms up, you can close the eyes. Allow your gaze to go inward to a place you would consider in yourself to be a place of personal refuge or solace. Perhaps you can create a little compassionate heart for yourself and go there. Invite your mind to rest in that place of solace so that your mind is not interfering with your body's ability to integrate the practice that we just had. Allow your entire body to get heavier and heavier with relaxation. Welcome the breath to care for you all on its own without you impeding or intruding. And when you rest in this place of solace or compassion, practice seeing yourself lovingly. To see yourself making these efforts in the human journey aware of its complexity, the challenges. And yet here you are showing up moment to moment and day to day. Let your eyes become more kind as you gaze inward. Resting in your inner place of compassionate solace. Allow your body to become more and more deeply relaxed. And practice the art of deliberately letting go. This is the beauty of surrender. Beauty of stillness. Allow the relaxation to go more and more deeply again, penetrating the muscles, the organs, the space between the organs, the nerve pathways, circulation pathways, into the subtle body and also into your mind. Encourage your eyes to become more kind again. Rest in your inner place of solace and compassion. And see yourself experiencing the human journey and all of its complexities and also its beauty. And begin to turn your head side to side. You can do that. Close the eyes when you come to center. Open the eyes as you gaze to the side. Roll your head to center. Close the eyes. Roll your head to the side. Open the eyes. And then keeping the eyes open as you roll your head side to side. Trace the walls, the ceiling, the space around you. So you're aware of where you are. Return to center. Wiggle the fingers, the toes. Please bend your knees. Roll to your side. Come up to sit. As you come up to sit, go ahead and take a seat that lets you be stable. That's the benefit of the Tamaskuna. We are stable. Also a seat that has enough energy to be upright, the benefit of the Rajaskuna. And yet also enough mental quiet for the mind to be lucid or clear. That is the Sattva Guna. Raise the right hand for Nadi Shodhana. We'll just do 3 rounds of Nadi Shodhana, which is 6 breath cycles. It's inhale left, exhale right, inhale right, exhale left. The in breath is cooling, the out breath is releasing the heat. Right? So when you breathe in, the air is cooler. When you breathe out, the air is warmer. So on the exhale, you're releasing heat from the body. That's helpful in terms of sympathetic nervous system. On the inhale, you're bringing in the coolness of the air. You're also going to be balancing the Ida and Pingala nadis and the left and right hemispheres of the brain and the body. Okay, so cooling in this case means cool like the luminous moon in the night sky. Okay. Begin with the left nostril for inhale left and then exhale right. And you'll inhale right and exhale left, of course, at your own timing. So you're going back and forth for 3 rounds altogether. You complete those, you can rest your hands in your lap. That breath practice will naturally bring some light to the neocortex, Also supports your pituitary and pineal glands. It can be very helpful preceding meditation. So please sit and quiet. Imagine yourself now as a beautiful lighthouse on a shore. The lights are turned on, and all of your 6 stations of the mind are balanced. Any parts of you that have been in distress, like a distressed Raja state or a distressed Tamas state, they will know how to find the shore. May you be able to glimpse that luminous truth, that which is ever abiding and not finite, not subject to the comings and goings. Raise your hands to your heart, please. And we might add, may all beings have access to this luminous truth. May they be safe enough, resourced enough, cared about enough to sense this indwelling. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. Thank you very much for sharing your practice with me and with the community. I hope you now have a greater sense of what is yoga therapy, what are the polyvagal systems that influence us, and how we can bring those systems back into balance. I hope you also got a sense of what it means to have the 6 stations of the mind, the teeter-totter of the mind, come to greater stillness, and why that is so beneficial to us as an individual on the planet, and how that could then benefit us as a family of humanity. If you have questions or comments about the practice, please do leave those down below the video. I look forward to hearing from you. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, please do that as well. And don't forget to click the like button if the practice is helpful to you. Thank you very much. Namaste.